losing yourself in movies, TV series, fandom, fanfiction, novels. And I don't just mean enjoying it, I mean losing yourself in it and using it as something to distract yourself from what's really going on. Anytime we're doing that, what is happening psychologically and emotionally is that something's too painful for us to address head on. So we need an escape hatch because it feels safer for us emotionally and psychologically. Are you escaping into fandom, fanfiction, movies, television, any kind of alternate reality, social media? There's alternate reality. I've just responded to a journalist request and I'll read it out to you in a second. And basically there's some a study been done from Frontiers in Psychiatry finding that the pandemic has increased maladaptive daydreaming and people escaping into fan fiction and fandom. So I really wanted to speak on this. This is something that I know about personally and obviously with the work that I do. And maybe I'll read out the request and what I said to this reporter. But anytime we are trying to escape into a different world or a different reality, whether that's fantasy relationships, in other words, you've been on a date with the person once, or maybe you haven't even been on a date, but you're imagining a future with them, that fantasy relationship pattern, Miss Fantasy Relationship, is one of the 6 dating drama archetypes that I designed. If you're doing that, or if you're going into losing yourself in movies, TV series, fandom, fan fiction, novels, and I don't just mean enjoying it, I mean losing yourself in it. Losing yourself in it and using it as something to distract yourself from what's really going on. Anytime we're doing that, what is happening psychologically and emotionally is that something's too painful for us to address head on. So we need an escape hatch because it feels safer for us emotionally and psychologically. So what I'll do is I'll read out the journalist request that I responded to, which has the research that just came out about maladaptive daydreaming, and I'll read my response and I'll riff on what I think about this and how you can plug yourself back into the real world and reality and ground yourself and develop some tools and techniques to emotionally regulate rather than trying to get into this escape hatch of movies, fiction, fandom, etc. By the way, does everyone know what fandom means? If not, I can explain. So the query is this from the reporter. A study published this past November in Frontiers in Psychiatry found that the virus pandemic has increased maladaptive daydreaming everywhere. Recent research also shows that more people are reading fan fiction, love fan fiction, passionate about it, used to write it, still read it, it's great, and watching TV during the pandemic. In return, this has resulted in many people becoming obsessed fans. We'll speak on that in a second. That said, can fandom obsession lead to maladaptive daydreaming? Great request, great question. So fandom obsession, a fandom is a group of people who like the same thing. It's usually a film or a book or a film series or a TV series or a sports team or a celebrity. I guess the most obvious one, like, is on Twitter, like the K-pop fandom are quite prolific. Back in the day, like Harry Potter was a fandom, right? That's a fandom. It's a group of people that congregate over their shared love for a thing. I think it can be very powerful, it can be a community, but I've also noticed people play out their patterns of obsession in it, right? So here's what I said in response. While maladaptive daydreaming is a diagnosable condition common in those with a heavy trauma history, which it is, the deep dive into fandom presents in the same way. So it's the desire to escape from our present reality. It's the ingrained neural pathway that says, this is too painful, I need an escape hatch. It makes sense fandom obsession has increased during the past 12 months. Our psyche does not have a reference point for a global lockdown because we've never experienced this before. So instead of addressing this head on, it feels psychologically and emotionally safer to immerse ourselves in fan fiction obsession, movies, or a TV series. The emotionally healthier option is to address our emotions. We can do this by asking 3 simple questions. You might want to just take a note of this, guys. What emotions are coming up for me? What do I need? How can I give that to myself? And I'll repeat that in a second. By learning to nurture our most tender and frightening emotions, we learn to help ourselves emotionally regulate, feel better. From this place, we no longer have the strong urge to escape into fictional worlds, right? So those 3 questions again are, what emotions are coming up for me, right? What would you call that emotion? Is it fear? Is it anxiety? Is it worry? Panic? Terror? Right? What's the emotion? Is it sadness? Frustration? Like, I'm just so fucking done with all of this situation. Like, what is it? What emotion's coming up? What would you call the emotion? What do I need? So what do you need? I need to reassure myself that it's going to be okay. How can I give this to myself? Well, I can talk myself through it. I can remind myself of when I've overcome things that felt difficult and felt really insurmountable, but I was able to get through it. Right? So whether or not you relate to fandom, if you're like, oh, I'm not really like in a fandom, I'm not like on Tumblr, I'm not like obsessing about something, it's still true that many of us are escaping into a fictional world because it feels like welcome relief, frankly. So it's understandable. I've done it, right? In the past 12 months, I've definitely used an escape hatch when things got really scary and I felt really overwhelmed and I felt PTSD triggers coming up, complex PTSD from a trauma history that I have. I definitely found an escape hatch on Tumblr. I've been doing this for years. It's a very ingrained neural pathway. My brain just goes, it's too difficult, escape hatch, escape hatch. So I know this well, so this is not coming from a place of judgment at all. I totally get it. But what is more helpful is when we can address it, because if we don't address it, we're avoiding it. It's almost like when people take drugs. I've done that too. We're not like, oh, I want to take some drugs and get off my face, or I want to drink and get really drunk. It's not that. Like we want to either feel or not feel. And I remember when I was in AA, one of my friends there who almost became a sponsor, he said, drinking is a way to feel and not feel at the same time. I think drugs are the same, and I think fandom, obsession, and escaping into these fictional worlds is the same thing. It's a way to feel, but also not feel. So we feel the emotions of the thing, whether it's the TV show, whether it's the film, the fan fiction, like whatever juiciness we're reading. We feel the feelings of that, and it's exciting, and we're kind of getting our needs met. So that's another question to ask is, what need is this meeting within myself? How do I feel when I'm reading fan fiction? How do I feel when I'm watching the film? How do I feel when I'm watching the TV series? Well, I feel excited. I feel loved. I feel a sense of connection. What am I gaining from the fandom? Well, I have this community. So, okay, so that's really, really useful. So knowing that, what kind of need is this meeting within you? Right? It's meeting a need for connection. That's so understandable. That's so understandable that would be the case now, because we're all needing connection. We're locked down in England. We've been locked down since New Year's Eve, right? I'm missing connection. Yes, I call my friends, but I miss them. I want to see them. And I would go and see them, but you know, most of them are not local. So of course we're missing connection and we're trying to get that need met. So what else? What else is it bringing up? Well, I get the feeling of excitement. Totally. We're all bored out of our minds because we're locked inside. It totally makes sense. So what can come up when we're doing this maladaptive daydreaming or this escape hatch thing? What we're doing is we're trying to get a need met. It's totally, totally understandable. What I've seen happen though with myself, with clients who've done this, is that we feel ashamed. We feel ashamed and we're kind of embarrassed, right? I don't really want to tell you that I was writing fan fiction last summer. I don't really want to tell you that, you know, I got deep into a fandom like early last year because I'm like, oh shit, I should be like beyond this. But I was in a situation financially that was so scary to me that it was too much. It felt like too much and I needed a release, right? I didn't drink. I didn't do drugs. I got sober years ago, but this was it's another drug. It's another form of drug, right? I think working too much is the same thing. It's something that enables us to escape. It's the escape hatch. So What emotions are coming up at the moment with this whole situation globally? What emotions are coming up? What do you need? And how can you give this to yourself? And look, if you want to watch a film and enjoy it, by all means. If you want to read a book and enjoy it, if you love fan fiction, if you like writing, if you like reading it, I'm not saying don't do those things. I'm just saying don't do them to excess. Notice when it's becoming a problem. Notice what that line is for you. And are you able to regulate it? Are you able to moderate it or not? So for example, with me, with alcohol, people might be like, oh, just have one glass. I can't have one glass of wine. That's not how it works. That's not how my brain works. So I don't do it. So I say to myself, this is not a thing that I do. I just don't do it. I don't do it anymore. I don't do that. It's a very powerful statement when you can say to yourself, I don't do that. I don't do that. So maybe if you know that it easily gets out of control, maybe you have to draw a line in the sand and say, I cannot do that anymore. Or maybe you're able to moderate it. So it's about knowing yourself. Like, when is it a problem? When is it helpful? When is it harmful? Right? That's what maladaptive means. Maladaptive means it used to be something that was helpful and now it's kind of ruining your life. So maladaptive daydreaming is imagining, but doing it so much that it's really causing a problem in your life, right? So, this felt important. I have been writing fan fiction for years. I haven't wrote it in a while, like not since last year. I think it's fun. I think there are some brilliant fan fiction writers out there. I also think on Tumblr and on like AO3, which is Archive of Our Own, which is a well-known fan fiction site. See, I'm like, I know fan fiction. I know it looks like I don't, like I look like whatever. Like, I know fan fiction. I think there's some brilliant writers. I think it's a beautiful art form, but we just need to be super careful that we're not reading it at 3 o'clock in the morning and not able to live our lives, you know, and we're not using it to escape from things that are really difficult. I love you guys so much. If you want more from me, you can find me here on the Instagram machine. Follow me. I'm also on YouTube. If you put in Cheryl Muir Fandom, Cheryl Muir Fanfiction into YouTube, it'll come up with some stuff that I've talked about before. There's also a video I have called Why You Thirst After the Villains. So if you're into fandom and fan fiction, you might find that really interesting. Yeah, I've done the legwork on this, guys. I've done the legwork on this. Yeah, I think I've told you where to find me. My website, cherylmuir.com. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with fandom. It's a beautiful thing, but just moderate it. Love you guys. Take care.